Welcome to Behind the Bookshelf podcast. I'm your host, Emily Vale. This is a place where we hold a candle flame to pages, get the inside scoop from published authors and other industry professionals. Here you'll learn the inspiration behind stories, get to know the author, learn their process, and be part of relevant conversations around literature. Take a seat, grab a book. We're going behind the bookshelf. Today I'm joined by C.B. Woods. C.B. is a romance writer with two romantasy series, The Courts Between and The Living Courts, and a standalone contemporary romance currently available through Emrae, and more stuff coming in the future. She writes stories about good women who make bad decisions for the right reasons. Based in Phoenix, she's built her career in writing and marketing and lives with her husband and two kids. CB is one of the founding members of Emrae Publishing, hell-bent on making publishing accessible without having to hand a portion of her sales to billionaires. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm super excited to talk about your The Courts Between series and just get to know you a little bit better. Funny thing, I actually used to live in Arizona. I know that's like where you're connecting from today. What part of Arizona are you in?
Yeah, I'm in like the Queen Creek Santan Valley area. What about you?
Okay, so you probably haven't heard of it. Sierra Vista. Have you ever heard of that
I
town?
actually have. Is that more closer to Tucson or is it closer to
Yeah,
Flagstaff?
it's like an hour and a half south of Tucson, so it's a
Okay,
military town. I was there for like
gotcha.
3-ish years. But yeah, I love hate relationship with Arizona.
I think
But
anyone who lives here feels
I
the same
mean,
way.
I'm obsessed with the
You're
dreams.
representing the tea, but yeah, we're
Yeah,
heading into the time of year where it's more hate than love. So it's been nice this week, but I know that is
yeah.
limited.
Oh my gosh, the summers are killer. I'm really excited to get to hear more about the Courts Between series. And I know that Rebel just came out in March. So I would love to ask, what did you do to like celebrate that?
Yeah, it was big launch. The second book is always very hard. I feel like you have one that you're marketing and then one that you're launching for the first time. So I feel like we kind of did a little differently. We didn't do like a big event or anything. I really just like slept, which was really
Mm-hmm.
nice. It came out over spring break for my kids and stuff. So I was like, I'll just get it out there and then kind of take a little bit of a breather. Not a long breather because we're right back into things, but it was nice.
Yeah, and it is interesting that you mentioned it's the second book in a series. So maybe it feels a little bit different if it were to be like a debut or if it were a standalone. I don't know how that feels to do a series. I only write standalones. But yeah, you put so much work into it up to the release. So it makes sense to me that you just want to kind of relax that day.
Yeah, just watch what happens. Take a few days, not too long, but a few days off.
Yeah, so can you tell me, I know, like, how many books have you spoken this? Like, how many books are going to be in the series?
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. I don't know if I've put it out like firmly, but I will. My whole system is based on our planets. So every planet is its own court, and then there's also a couple of like metaphysical courts. So the main series right now takes place in the lunar court and the solar court, but I do have books planned for each planet. So I do have a side book that's already out. It's called Courting Death and Desire. That one takes place in the Plutonian court, so on Pluto, which people will argue Pluto is no longer a planet, but I'm a millennial, so I get to pretend that it is.
I feel like they just made it a planet again.
Did
I
we go
might be
back?
wrong.
Have we healed?
I think
Can I
we
take
have.
credit for that? But I don't know. Maybe I will. I'll have to do some marketing around it. But yeah, I have one plan for each planet that kind of plays loosely on the mythology that they're named after. So whether that's Roman or Greek, astrologers love to mix the two, which drives me a little crazy. But I use those kind of as inspiration for the story.
So it would be really safe to say that you're super into astrology
I am. I
and
am.
astronomy, right? Or because
Yeah,
one of them is.
all of it. But yes, the whole system's kind of based around both mythology and astrology and kind of more divine, intuitive arts, things like that.
So I guess that caveats perfectly into this question that I wanted to ask you is that because the series is set in this solar world and inspired from our solar system, why that celestial setting?
Yeah, I have always been very drawn to space. I feel like, some kids like they pick marine biology, some kids pick superheroes. I feel like I just like glommed onto planets and space. And I've always been very drawn to like the moon and learning about like our tide cycles and all these things that the moon controls. I think it represents a lot of very interesting aspects of ourselves as people. And then as I've gotten older, I've gotten more into tarot and just kind of more, let's call it like woo-woo witchy stuff. Like I dabble. So astrology has become something I've really dived into. I think around COVID, I feel like I needed something new to fixate on, and that was one of the things. And so I just a lot of that got pushed into what I was working on and what I was writing at the time.
Yeah, I would agree. Like COVID made so many people really interested in astrology, myself included.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know that you have the Quartz Between series is mostly what we're talking about today, and then you have the Living Quartz, like you mentioned, and then all the other like exciting books that are going to be inspired by the planets. So can I ask you what inspired the Quartz Between series, like the core story in it?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like way back when, I won't say how many years exactly, but when I was in college, I had this like scene in my head of this character that I kind of loosely knew. I always was a writer, even as a kid. So I feel like I just had this very intense scene between her and a god. And it just kind of lived like rent free for a while. I don't know where it comes from in the end. But when I started writing, I originally wrote a contemporary first. That book actually was like the fifth book I ended up releasing. But I wrote that one first and then kind of sat it on a shelf for a little bit and then got really into fantasy and romantic fantasy specifically. So I was reading a lot of that and I was like, man, I think it's time to put that scene somewhere. I knew it would probably not be in the first book of the series, and it ended up being one of the end scenes in Rebel, the second book. But I just felt really drawn to it. I felt really drawn to it. Was a very strong female character who was doing something very sacrificial, and I don't want to spoil it, but like that to me just really felt like I knew her and I understood what she was trying to do. So I think the stars kind of, ironically, the stars just all kind of aligned for the timing on the story, and it just kind of poured out of me from there.
Yeah, and I think that's how you know it's definitely a story worth telling because it stuck with you for so long. So that's good to hear because I feel like sometimes, speaking for myself, the first book that I ever wrote, it was a vampire romance, and I'm like obsessed with vampire fiction. And it's been sitting, and I'm like, oh, well, it taught me how to write. I'm never going to do anything with it. But I still revisit it all the time. So that gives me hope, and probably other writers that are listening to this hope that if there's a story that you keep revisiting, maybe you're going to finish it one day and make it something.
Yeah, it'll
And
come back around. It always does.
yeah. And so, yeah, I was looking at your catalog. You have quite a pretty hefty catalog.
The traditional publishing thing. I did the querying, all of that for my first book and spent a lot of time there. And then ended up turning down a publishing offer that I didn't realize how like the lead times on these things. So it was in 2024. I got a contract in front of me and it was going to be 2027 before Rift came out. And they wanted me to split it into two books and a couple other things that I was just like, I don't know. I'd been writing so many others in between there that I just, once I decided to do it myself and indie publish, for over the last 13, 14 months, I was like, I'll just put out all of my manuscripts that I've been sitting on. Most of them are in the same universe, and then there's one that's a contemporary. I'll get them all out now. I'll just get the backlist gone and done,
Right.
which I would not recommend to other writers listening. I am very tired and won't do that again, probably. I think I'll stick to one or two a year max from now on. But yeah, I just wanted to get them all out there and just start moving forward because I'd been writing all these stories for years and years.
So they weren't new to you, but like, respect. You're like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it. And
I was ready.
so, yeah, very like pedal to the metal with it. Um, but speaking of that, like, you explored, traditional publishing, right? And I wanted to talk a little bit about Emrae. So Emrae Publishing, you're one of the founding members. What can you tell us about it? And did your experience with traditional publishing play a role in founding Emrae?
100% it did. So had that contract in front of me, you learn a lot. I mean, it's so kind of hush hush gate kept when you're in the process. You learn how to query, then you learn about agents, then you learn about submission and all these other steps in the process that like if you don't know just how deep publishing really goes on the traditional side. So by the time I got to that point and decided, I don't want to wait years and years. I'm ready to keep going. I've been a career marketer. That's what I've always done. Been a copywriter and like always in digital marketing in some aspect. I felt like I had the tool set and the skill set to do it on my own and do it at my own pace. I ended up with one of my old coworkers, actually, who I was a copywriter with, asking her to be my editor. And at the time, I didn't have the cash up front to pay her. I was like, hey, if you want to take a little bit of risk on me, I think I can make you back this money pretty quickly if I give you a certain percentage of every royalty in perpetuity. And then if I hit it big and Rift does really well, you also do really well in the long term, way more than what you're going to make just up front, which doesn't work for everyone. Most editors would probably be like, no, thank you. And I respect that too. But luckily, she believed in me. She read it and she's like, I'm in. And through that process, working with her and kind of setting up how we were going to split everything and what felt fair, it's like, man, this is probably a model that other authors and creatives would engage on if they had an option. If they don't have the skill set to do all the social media marketing, engage with printers, figure out distribution, and all of the things that come along, cover design, all these things. I mean, if you're an indie publisher, you're wearing dozens of hats at any given moment. If you had a team behind you that was willing to put in all that energy, they believed in your story so much that everyone was willing to do the work and then split the royalties on the back end, I think people would be interested in that. So we put our little team together. We had another friend of ours who, again, we've been working with for like a decade or more, who is a PR person. And then we have my sister, actually, her name's Leanne. She is a wholesale logistics person. So we were like, let's get your skill set in here too. I can't use a spreadsheet, but she sure can. So between the four of us, we kind of have all of the bases covered. And we opened for submissions barely even a year ago, and people were really into it. So we have signed 5 or 6 authors now. We just had our first author that wasn't one of us on the team debut this week. So Oren Steele just had her debut. The other key thing is we don't distribute on Amazon at all. So we decided to just remove ourselves from that aspect of distribution. We know that with indie authors, like there really isn't a lot of choice. Amazon Kindle Unlimited is kind of the only way to do it. But we were interested in exploring, what if that wasn't the only way? What if we all went wide and we did a direct to reader model? So we sell as a publisher directly to our readers. We do events, we do pop-ups, we sell online. We just wanted to see what that would happen. Like, could we build that community? Could we have something that's worth it? And so far, it's going really well. So I think this next year, we're probably going to scale really quickly. I'm really excited about the direction. But it's been fun to see readers really engage with authors who are doing things a little differently. They've been so supportive and so excited, and that's just like the dream.
Yeah, I think it's proven that the system works because, to your point about Amazon really monopolizing the industry in a way, but I think whenever you read indie, in part, it is a very intentional thing because it's so easy to just pay attention to what media is showing you, what the bookstores, big bookstores are showing you. So when you choose to read indie, going direct to Emrae to buy the book, it isn't a stretch. And like the debut with one of your authors that I've been following, Oren, it went amazing. Rebels launch was amazing, and so yeah, I really am excited to see what happens with Emrae. That's news to me that it's been 1 year. So
Yeah, I think like just last year was officially the year of us filing, and then I think we opened for submissions over the summer. So it's moved very quickly. I think I blinked and I'm like, wait, we have like an actual,
yeah.
we actually did it, which is great.
Yeah, I think that's what happens when like you have a mission, you have a goal, and then you have like women, because you're an all-woman team, right?
We are, yeah,
Who believe in each other.
totally.
So that's really special. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about Emrae? But that pretty much covers it.
I can kind of give like a little bit about where I think we're going.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of momentum behind us now with the last couple launches we've done. We have Kate Goodwin, her historical romance fantasy comes out in the fall. We have Laura Casey, she'll be a sapphic contemporary romance. We have poetry, so like Ren Vega, she has a collection coming out in June. I actually just printed some wine labels. Her poetry kind of has a wine theme. We're gonna do a shoot this weekend with the bottles and stuff because I used to be a photographer in a past life. So it's like we get to use all of our creative skill sets and talents that have kind of gone by the wayside together. So over the next year or so, we just have a lot of really exciting stuff coming. I think we'll start hosting a lot of author events and kind of engage more on our author side too. We currently have some free resources on our website that are like revision kits and just how to handle harsh reviews, you know, words to look for in your manuscript to delete, things like that. We want to really expand there. We want to provide a lot of education and just kind of stop gatekeeping all of the processes because you don't know until you know. So we can give you as much as we can just to help authors feel more empowered to do it themselves too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I am familiar with Kate. I'm excited about that release. I first came across Paragon whenever all of the crazy stuff was happening in Michigan, and I was seeing that you were doing the pre-order donation. So that immediately turned me on to Kate. I was like, you guys are cool people. I love what you're doing. I love the story. And then the poetry book, you saying it's wine themed, like that immediately. I was like, that would be so cool to just have like a wine tasting, like reading.
Yeah.
Like there's so many possibilities. I love the vibe.
Yeah. We like just being able, you know, it's small scale right now, but it's fun to be able to get engaged like our local community too out here. Like we have I mean, we talked about this that you were in Arizona, but out in Santan Valley there's a local winery that they focus on natural wines, and I emailed them. I was like, "Hey, we have a poetry collection that we think might kind of work well. What if we did like a tour and made some content about what you guys are doing, and then we can share that together and we can kind of theme it to the book and like do a tasting or something." You know, there's a lot of ways to engage with other small businesses. It doesn't always have to be super book themed, but it's cool just to be part of something that's growing. I think there's a big return and passion for small business that's coming up right now. That's very exciting to see, and it's cool to be able to engage with all sorts of different, you know, industries in our area.
Absolutely, I agree. We
You're
talked a little bit about what we should expect from Emrae in the future, but what should we expect to see from the author, CB, in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. One I'm always working on. I am currently almost through the first draft of another contemporary. So outside of the Courts Between series, I have a contemporary that I'm working on that I'm kind of pitching as it's like The Summer I Turned Pretty, but she married the wrong brother and now they're divorced and she's kind of back at the beach house. The other brother is there. It's 20 years later. It's told in two timelines, so 2006 and 2026. If you were in 2006 in like the MySpace
Yes,
days,
the
the
nostalgia.
the eyeliner days, the tight jeans days, it feels very much like that, and I'm loving exploring that. It's kind of experimental. We're going to be releasing it and writing it in 8 episodes essentially. So we kind of want it to feel like a season of TV where we'll release it week over week. And we're kind of finding some fun ways to do that. And then the final collection will be like a full book. But it's been fun to write in a different format. So in like more episodic, encapsulated vignettes of this story versus writing from beginning to end. So I'm almost done with that one, and then I will be returning to finish the original trilogy in the Courts Between. So the final book will be Revolt. That will be out soonish. I won't put a date on it, but I want to finish that trilogy before moving on to anything else from that series.
So I like we're both millennials. So when you were saying like 2006 and like I write kind of like the first book that I've released is targeted for millennials as well. I saw a graphic that you posted and it was kind of like it was dual timelines as well. Is this
Mhm.
book that you're talking about where it was like
Yeah.
they were kind of like emo and then it was like how they are now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's called Jamie in Phases. And
Okay.
so the tagline is like it was never a phase. And I'll show you. So when I write, like part of kind of my writing ritual, I always have a perfume for every book that I do.
I love that.
And this one, because it's 2006 themed, it's like I was, you know, in my early teenage years. I actually found like my original like first perfume that I ever had. I don't know if you remember the Be Delicious days, but we opened it. My sister is here. She's only a year younger than me. I opened the box and I was like, oh my God, it smells like Sims 2 and like like just that time of my life. It was so funny. So it's been fun to kind of go back and like hang out and look at all. I've been looking at like old MySpace layouts and stuff like that to kind of get my head back in the game. But
I feel like that is unique because a lot of writers have a candle for each book, but you have
yeah,
a perfume for each book. And I'm a perfume connoisseur, so I need to follow what you're doing.
I know. I think I'm gonna make a TikTok or a reel or something soon about each book and the perfume that I wear because I like having it on me all day. I like kind of I get in the
Living it
car and
in.
I'm listening to the playlist for the book. I just like to keep my head really sunk into what I'm doing because I like you, I have ADHD, so I'm just always all over. I feel like if the more I can keep my senses grounded in it, the better I can stay focused on the project.
Yeah. So have you are you To me, perfume doesn't expire, all right? So have you been wearing it or is it a new bottle?
This is brand new. I went to find
Okay.
it. I mean, I had this bottle.
I was
It was the
thinking you like
very
found it
I
in a
wish.
cardboard
No, it was the
box.
very first perfume. I remember begging my mother. I was like 14. I was like, I'm old enough. I'm a grown woman. I need a perfume, and it's like the most sweet, like saccharine teenage
Yeah.
smell ever. But I just can see it so clearly, like on my teenage dresser. And I was getting ready to start writing. I was like, man, I feel like I need the Be Delicious. I need it on my desk. I need to be looking at it. And I went to go look for it and I was laughing with my husband. I was like, you'll never guess. Like you can still order a bottle of it and it's like $50 now, in this day and age. It's nothing for perfume. And I was like, this is so funny that I get to just have my little apple again on my desk. So
That's funny. I am trying to think. Like my mom was obsessed with Victoria's Secret perfumes, so mine was Love Spell. Like that
mhm,
brings
mhm.
me back, and I hate it now. I don't like it.
I feel like they changed something with it because I was a Love Spell girl back in the day too. And I remember like a couple years ago being like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah, they definitely did for sure. Or like the pink when the pink perfumes came
But
out,
yeah, the warm and
warm and
cozy.
cozy.
Mhm.
Yes, bringing me back down memory lane.
It's such a good way to keep your like senses kind of activated too. I'm like I sit down at my desk, I spray it, I'm back in the headspace of it. It feels good.
Totally. So I want to talk a little bit about your writing, how you approach writing. Do you have any rituals aside from the perfume, or a specific process when it comes to drafting a book?
Yeah, I could talk process for hours. I This is book 7 that I'm writing, so I feel like I finally kind of, I mean, it'll never finish evolving, right? But I feel like I've kind of honed how I do things. And I always tell other writers and anyone listening, I will share everything I'm about to talk about and with anyone, just give me your email address. But I have very specific planning spreadsheets and outlining spreadsheets that are following kind of like a modified saves the cat beat sheet. That's kind of where I like to live. I feel like my brain works really well in a 3 act structure. So when I'm planning a novel, I outline it to a T. I am so like, I have formulas, I have all the things that I need to pace it correctly because if I don't, I kind of go everywhere. And I just end up with like a bunch of random scenes and I'm like, where did any of this connect? I don't typically write from beginning to end in chronological order. That's not usually how my brain likes to work. I kind of have to like dopamine draft where I'm just chasing the vibe of the day. With my bigger like fantasy projects that have to be a little more meticulous because of magic systems and all of that, I try to stay like within a few scenes of each other so that way I don't change too much one way and then have to work back. But yeah, I do all of that and then about halfway through each draft it never fails that I then veer off completely from my plan and I become a pantser. And we usually find our way back in the editing process, but I am someone who I write straight through. I don't go back and look. I do not edit anything until I've completed draft one because I'll get stuck there all day. So
Mhm.
that's kind of my process right now, and then I usually have a 2 revision process. I've got such a streamlined working relationship with my editor at this point that I'll revise once, probably pretty close to when I finish drafting, and then I will usually take like a couple weeks away from it and not look at it at all, and then come back with fresh eyes before I ship it to her.
Yeah, coming back with fresh eyes, it really does like gives you a whole different perspective, and you're like,
Yeah,
why did I write this sentence like that?
who wrote this? That was not me. Who used all these filter words? I would never.
But I love to hear different people's processes, and mine is somewhat similar to yours. I don't have like a spreadsheet. I don't plot out every single detail in every scene, but I plot out like the basics because same like I need to know where I'm driving the vehicle. If I want to stop at this gas station, then I'll stop there. But um, yeah, it's very interesting how people's brains work differently for sure. Have you ever listened to it's a podcast from it's called Writers Unleashed.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I was listening to one of her episodes yesterday, and I've always written in chronological order, but she was saying that if you are stuck, you just need to write what inspires you, and I feel like that's what you said. You don't write chronologically. You write what you feel you need to, I guess. And so that's something that I recently tried, and I was like, oh my god, why have I been writing chronologically?
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. Like I'll get to a point in a lot of my drafts where I've skipped a scene or two, and now I have a pretty big gap, and the transition's a little rough. So that's like something to be mindful of. But I even have like a tab in my spreadsheet that's like I call it my dopamine draft method because it's writing 3 to 4 beats of the story ahead of yourself and then filling in the gaps. And it gives you kind of a structured way to do it, but it's still chaos. It's like a safe, structured chaos that keeps you from getting too out of your depth. But I've even gone so far with my first big revision with Rift. It was originally written in first person and present tense. I switched it to third person past tense, so I had a big
Yeah, that's a big
job
switch
ahead of
up.
me. And if you have an ADHD dopamine goblin in your brain, you know how hard it is to convince yourself to do the thing when you've already done the thing. So I actually wrote out every single scene that I knew I was keeping and put them on index cards, and I would number them and then just give like a kind of a log line of the scene. And I would just pick a couple at random every day and just get to work and like go back and rewrite it instead of dreading like, oh, I don't want to get to this part of the story, like I've already read it so many times. I would just kind of surprise myself every day with like, here's what we're doing today, and that did
Yeah.
help me.
Yeah, it definitely takes time to figure out what works for you. And now that you're 7 books in, you've got this like
Yeah,
down. You've got your
something like
protocols.
that.
So, how do you tend to write in third person, or are you kind of all around?
I stick mostly to third person now. I feel like I'm just a stronger writer in that. I also write no really short novellas under a different pen name, Annie Forrest. So if you see both, that's who that is. That are in first person, and I like doing that every once in a while to kind of switch things up. But I find that I'm just a much more my prose. I feel like is a lot stronger when I'm in third person. I feel like I have more observational skills in the third person that I just kind of lose in first person.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. In some stories, like demand, in a way, maybe a certain perspective, which is like why you change Rift to third person. But I find I was having a conversation with one of my friends about this. It's like I feel I always go towards first person present, and I feel like because of that, the way my brain works, the stories that I come up with are stories that are told in that point of view. So,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
guess
I can
like
see that.
any story could be told in third person. I don't know because I'm not super familiar with writing it, how that goes.
The only reason I ever even tried the switch was because an agent that I had been that had done a full request. She gave me such helpful feedback, even though she ultimately did not sign me. She was so kind, and took a lot of time, which I really appreciated. But she was like, the difference between your query letter and your draft itself, like writing in the story in third person, you have so much voice and so much like agency within the character that I didn't see in first person. Give it a try. And I was like, okay, I guess I will. And as I started rewriting it that way, I found it removed just a lot of blocks for me. I think maybe I just am someone who can't like look through someone else's eyes as well. Maybe that's what it is. Like I see the story in my head very cinematically. I don't really see it in like my perspective. So maybe that's it. But it really did help, and I was like, I'm so grateful to that agent who kind of pointed that out to me because I found a lot more of my style and my voice that way.
It's cool, yeah, because I mean the same story is getting told, but the way you're telling it through that different perspective, you're able to deliver it, like you said, in a much more cinematic way. So yeah, I've never really uh, I'm trying to write in third person, so we'll see how that goes.
I like reading both though. It's funny as a reader, I can switch no problem.
Yeah, I don't even pay attention to it. I'll like finish a book and then I'll be like, wait a second, what perspective was that in?
Totally. Yeah.
So speaking of books, what is the last book that you read?
I just finished And Now Back to You by BK Borenson. Love that series. I am about to pick up probably a couple manuscripts that have been submitted that I'm really excited about. So I have a couple of those to read through, all in kind of the fantasy world. And then I think my next one, our book club is reading How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days. I don't know if you've read that one,
Not heard of
but
it, but I'm going to look it up after this.
it just came out, I think. So our book club just picked it up, but it's so cute. I'm like a third of the way into it and on the audiobook, and I love it. So that's kind of where I've been.
The title feels kind of like I don't want to offend anybody by using the word hallmarky, but just like cozy. You know what I mean? Does
Yeah,
that
yeah,
sound like
it's a cozier fantasy, which is not usually where I gravitate toward, but I'm enjoying it. I think sometimes we all just need a little like just a
same?
nice, warm, cozy fantasy.
If it, for me, because I'm very much a fantasy reader or like supernatural, if it has like a spooky or like a
Mhm.
fantasy, like magical element, like I'm into it.
Totally.
I read A Sip of Magic by Kate Swansea. That was, I think it's the only cozy like fantasy that I've ever read. Someone said like Gilmore Girls, but make it magical.
Yeah, I've seen this one a lot on social media.
And I think she's an indie author too.
Hmm.
So, and I think that's in a series. Do you usually read series? Because I know you write series, or do you mix up reading standalones and series?
I mix it up. I'm kind of all over the place. I think because so much of my job is reading for like manuscript submissions and editing and things, I struggle to stay on top of my TBR, and I'm trying to get better about that now because I feel like I've missed a lot of the in the last like year and a half, I've missed a lot of the big books that have come out. I've just kind of been in my own world. So I'm bad about keeping up with it, but I really want to get back to it. I'm in bookstores all the time, so I'm always picking up new stuff, and then it's just on a shelf, and I'm like, no, you deserve to be read. So I'm trying to like really focus on widening out what I'm reading to outside of the fantasy genre. I kind of want to keep up with. I have so many like a book of the month boxes that are just unsealed or sealed and waiting for me. I'm like, I'll get to you.
Totally relate. I feel like I go between seasons of I'm just writing tunnel vision, and then I'm like, oh, I feel bad. Well, no, I don't feel bad, but like I have like FOMO that I'm not reading all of these cool books that I know about. So then I have to like take a seat or finish this up so that I can like sit down and relax.
I also struggle like when I'm in a drafting period and really writing. I struggle reading other people's work because I'm like I don't want to accidentally like
Yeah.
infuse something that I'm reading right now and get the lines kind of blurred. So I don't like doing that either.
Yeah, not read like reading in general or just reading in your genre.
In my genre, I try to like read opposite of it usually when I'm writing.
So I'm going to ask you a question that I ask everybody on here. What is something that brings you joy right now? It can be literally anything.
I love that question. I am about 2 hours into being unemployed for the first time in my entire life. I just got laid off from my day job, which is totally fine. But I find a lot of joy in that. I have been someone who I always have the 9 to 5 and then like several side hustles. And I am not going to do that right now. I'm going to release a little bit and put a lot of my energy into Emrae and a lot of my energy into writing. And that has just been very exciting for me. I've just never like given myself permission to do that before.
Yeah.
And I'm in a place where fortunately I can. And I'm really looking forward to being able to just be creative and kind of flex that muscle for a month or two and not have a lot of pressure on it.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I mean, realistically, you're not employed. You're unemployed. You're still, you still have your author career and with Imre. But I know so many authors have a day job and then they
Yeah.
have their separate career, and that is totally normal. So, but that's so amazing that you're able to take that time and just kind of uh, be peaceful with it, and
Mhm.
really settle into that new flow.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I know that's not the case for a lot of people, but I am, we'll see, it won't last forever, but while I have it, I am excited to just kind of let my brain wander a little bit more.
Because I feel like in a way we might be a similar where you are a busy woman and you like to keep yourself busy.
So we'll see kind of where the road takes me. I am, like you said, a busy woman. I'm like already like telling myself, don't go looking for other things right now.
Yeah,
You have plenty to do. Just like be okay with maybe not having an 8 a.m. start to every single day. Like I've got kids that I can take to school now and, can just
absolutely.
kind of enjoy them a little bit more too.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see where you can put your time, that extra time now for sure. So where can readers follow you and find your books? Not on
Yeah,
Amazon, right?
not, I mean, you might find them on Amazon, but that's not through us. Unfortunately, you cannot escape Amazon, but reademray.com, that's where all of the direct sales are coming from. If you order from us there, ebooks can go on any device, so it's super easy. You can even read it from your phone if you want, even a Kindle. They're universal. And then any physical books you order from us always come signed. They come with goodies and bookmarks and stuff. So keep us busy. You can order from us there. And then I'm on social media at CB Woods Books everywhere. I'm usually hanging out on Instagram and TikTok. And we're doing a lot of events. So if you follow at Read Emray on Instagram and TikTok, we are doing events in Phoenix. We're gonna do some author like write nights and things like that. And I'm always at like author book events and markets and stuff.
Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing that with us and for letting me talk to you today. So yeah, I'll catch you later.
Yeah,
And
thank you so much.
yeah, of course. As mentioned, you can find CB's books on reademrae.com, and you can also follow her on social media under her username CB Woods Books. Stay tuned. Next week, I'm going to be having another author on here who is published by Emrae, Oren Steele, where we're going to talk about her debut, By Blood, Shadow, and Fire. As always, thanks for listening.